All right. This is Inside with Outsiders, and today's guest is a good friend of mine, Troy Hinson from Black Caviar, SiriusXM Radio, and Prince Street Bodega as a new project, right?
Brand new project, yeah.
Perfect. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Jeremy Asgari.
What's up, Jeremy?
What's going on?
Good seeing you, buddy.
Likewise. I haven't seen you in a while, and I've known you for how long now?
15, 16 years maybe at this point? Yeah, long time ago.
Making me feel real old right now.
Can you bring the mic a little bit closer to your face?
You would think the guy on radio would know how close to...
I'm not monitoring on the headphones. So.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, honestly, I would like to do monitors. That way nobody will talk over each other. But it's kind of hard getting everything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so far we've been good with this.
Yeah.
All right, Troy, I've known you long enough. This is interesting because I know you a lot. I know you really well, but I don't know a lot about you. Or as much as I'm about to find out today. Hopefully. Yeah. Where are you from?
Originally from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
And what was that like growing up there?
It's just a kind of little town in Pennsylvania. Grew up kind of near the guys from Jackass.
Yeah.
So, I would skate with those guys back in the day, and that's kind of like, you just kind of, there's not a lot to do, so you understand how those guys came up with Jackass, because you have to entertain yourself somehow. But yeah, just grew up, a lot of skateboarding, played in a lot of hardcore bands.
Well, you're jumping ahead. I want to know everything. Like, you skated. Let's talk about these hardcore bands, because you've been in a lot of musical projects and across many genres. Oh, by the way, you're also Grammy nominated, right?
Yeah.
I should have said that in the intro. Troy is Grammy nominated, and I'm super proud of you, man.
Thanks, man.
That was a project. I remember you starting Black Caviar. Mm-hmm. Which is, I don't want to say EDM, but what is it?
It's just kind of one of those things where it's just sort of undescribable dance music. We'll just say
it's like dance music with a flair of hip hop, right?
A lot of hip hop. We mixed in some Latin rhythms. So we're kind of all over the map,
And you were nominated for a Grammy for the Spider-Man, the animated Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, the Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
We did a song on there called "What's Up, Danger."
Okay.
And the soundtrack was great. It had Post Malone, Nicki Minaj, a bunch of other great artists. Lil Wayne, I believe, was on it.
And was your song the only song nominated for the Grammy?
The album was nominated for the Grammy.
The album was nominated.
Yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah. I thought it was just you specifically able to say what's up.
Yeah.
You beat out the big stars. All right, so back to like these bands and you're starting music. How did you start in music? And what was like? Did you take a liking to music class, or was it always like on your own, where you just wanted to be? You picked up a guitar on your own or whatever.
I guess it basically started with just getting a drum set, banging on drums. My dad was a guitar player, started messing around with his guitar, and just started playing in bands. And, this is kind of like late 80s, early 90s.
How old were you when you picked up your first guitar and like decided I want to be in music?
Oh, man, probably 10 or 11.
And did you know like that's what you wanted to do?
I fell in love with it really quick. Yeah, I just loved music. My dad would, he was way into music. He worked in radio. He introduced me to the Beatles and Elvis, and so I went down just exploring that, and then getting into punk rock and metal, and then just being like, okay, so punk rock is only a couple chords. Like, how do we play this? And getting together with your friends and figuring out these songs, and it's like, wow, we can play this, and it's like, well, then we might as well just go play a show,
right?
So I was probably about 15 when I played my first show with my friends, and it was fun. I mean, it was just
Where'd you play?
I played a place in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania called Scarlett O'Hara's.
Okay,
and
it's a cool name.
Yeah, it was just this little underground spot in Bethlehem, and you had to sell tickets. They gave you like a stack of tickets, so I'd have to go to all my friends at school and hey, $5 for a ticket, and you sell these tickets, and then you get paid that night. When you cash out and they give you your money. And we loved it. It was just fun. And then you start building this community of other musicians in different schools in your area, and then you get invited to play other shows, and you invite those guys to come play shows you're booking, and that's really how that network. And in Pennsylvania, there was a really cool music scene. And there was hardcore, and there was punk, and there was that scene, and there was also a rave scene happening in the 90s. That was a lot of fun. They would gut a warehouse in Allentown, and they throw raves there. And so, you know, I'd go to a hardcore show on a Friday night, and then Saturday night I'd go see a rave. And that's kind of how I fell in love with different genres of music and DJing, as well as playing in bands.
Yeah, well, it's when was you started like 15?
Yeah.
But how good were you guys? I mean,
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
Let's say if you picked up a guitar at 11 for the first time and you started playing shows at 15. First of all, I find that amazing. One, like that you had the initiative to have your own shows and create your own band, because we had Anthony Martini on the show of formerly of E-Town Concrete, also a lifelong music entrepreneur, music industry person, and they put out their first album at 16, which I was like, how did you do it? And I found out how they did it, but like for me at 16, I didn't know my ass from my elbow. I mean, I didn't know that until I was maybe until now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was playing basketball and I couldn't even imagine trying to put an EP together, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't good. You know,
Yeah.
you don't, at that age, you really don't even know that you're out of tune.
Right.
You know, you're just kind of playing.
Well,
and
I mean, punk is kind of okay to be out of tune,
it
too.
kind of pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, punk and like that stuff, it's just a couple like, it switches between
Yeah.
like, you know, two or three chords. So there really isn't much involved. It doesn't take a lot. Like, you know, if you listen to like, you know, the Ramones, like there's not a
Yeah.
lot of, you know, they're playing fast.
Right.
But it's not overly technical.
Right.
So as long as you're kind of in the ballpark and, you know, when your friends are there, it doesn't matter. It's
Right.
just kind of, you know, about the, and then, you know, and back then too, you know, you know, now you can record in your place and you can write a whole album in your bedroom.
Right.
You know, back then, you know, you had to like find a recording studio, you had to show up, you know, you had to call the guy, be like, hey, I want to bring my
Yeah.
band there. And he'd show up and you meet this guy who's just a lunatic, you
Yeah.
know, but he happens to have recording gear, you know, and so that's how you'd have to record your album or demo, you know, and it's a funny way to do it, you know.
What did your family think about? I mean, your dad was a music head, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and your parents are divorced, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So what did your dad think about it, and what did your mom think about this passion of yours to be a musician? I mean, I know from my experience, I didn't take the traditional route as far as finding a 9-to-5 and so on. So I got a lot of grief from my parents about look, find a job, and they left me alone once I was able to achieve certain goals. And the final goal I achieved that they really left me alone was I got health insurance. Right? That was the last goal. They were like, all right,
Yeah.
we're leaving him alone.
Yeah.
But what did your parents think about your choice and your path?
I think at first they were a little, they didn't get it. I mean, I listening to, they just didn't get metal. I got really into metal and playing drums in metal, you know.
And what do you think brought you into metal? I mean, obviously, I think anyone into metal as a kid is got some sort of anger, right? Anger and like trying to anti-society because you're not happy with what's going on. But want to explain that your path into loving metal and then how they didn't understand metal? Like, talk about that.
Well, I guess it started with probably Guns N' Roses came out.
That's crazy.
And
that
they were like the band.
Yeah, of course. They were like the number one. I loved Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
I mean, Appetite for Destruction was one of my favorite albums of all time.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like a life-changing moment for me discovering that record. And just the power and aggression in those songs. And then, you know, going into like Motley Crue and listening to that, and then discovering Metallica. That was kind of the defining moment where, you know, especially the song One. I remember, you know, seeing the video for that, you know, and I was probably, you know, 11 years old, maybe 12. And I remember it scaring the hell out of me. I was scared of the video.
Really?
And
I was scared of Thriller by Michael Jackson.
I remember being frightened of that as well.
Yeah.
I did love Michael growing up.
Likewise.
But yeah, I remember especially the part that really got me in that song in One was the synchronized and I remember hearing that part, and I remember that changing my life. I remember thinking like, oh, you can do this with music? Oh wow, it opened my.
Yeah.
There were bands doing it before that, but you know, to my 12-year-old ears, I had never heard anything like that. And so that was the time where I was like, oh, okay, this is the path that I want to start going down. So yeah, that to me was like hearing that for the first time changed my life.
So I want to know what bands came after that, because once you hear that, you start digging deeper. I mean, you're a type to dig for music, right?
Sure.
I know you are. So what bands did you discover that really spoke to you? And also, let's talk about your parents. Like, they're like, what is this music? Especially from Pennsylvania, I believe excuse me, that they're religious as well.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what were they? Satan's music? What are they saying?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was Satan's music.
Both your parents are saying that.
They're both very religious. Yeah, yeah.
But your father was an Elvis fan, right? And Elvis was being accused of. I mean, this is back in his day, of being the same way, right?
Sure. I mean, well, when my dad was growing up, his parents were like, Elvis is the devil's music. So of course, to him, that was rebellious.
Right.
So then he grew up with that. And he's like, come on, it's Elvis. Who cares?
Right.
So then, when the bands that I liked, well, he's like, that's the devil's music, and it's like, so, I don't know. Maybe if I had kids, I'd be like, well, today's the devil's music. I don't know. But, so yeah, they were, it was loud. It was really aggressive, like you're playing the drums to that music. I mean, it shakes the whole house, so I guess they were a little confused.
But you were playing drums?
I played drums. I played bass. I've kind of been all over the place. I played drums for the most of my childhood in different bands. That's kind of where I started. So yeah, they were a little confused by it. They didn't get it. They didn't understand it. Which you don't want them to. You're not. Parents aren't supposed to. They're not supposed to get it.
Right.
So that's kind of what made it cool.
Right. Yeah.
But then as far as once like Metallica happened, and then you kind of I graduated a little bit to more like hardcore, like growing up in the 90s, bands like Earth Crisis, Snapcase. One of my all-time favorite bands, this band Dead Guy from New Jersey.
I don't know Dead Guy.
Yeah,
I know Earth Crisis was a band I was a big fan of, and there was Straight Edge, which was interesting. But Dead Guy I never heard of.
Dead Guy, yeah, they're from New Brunswick, New Jersey, and they really kind of put out one album that just sort of changed everything. They, like all the other bands, like Every Time I Die, Dillinger Escape Plan, they all sort of followed this blueprint of this one album that this band put out. And they actually reunited. They broke up before even anybody cared about them. And it was just this. They were this legendary band that broke up a long time ago. Never made money on it, and they actually reunited. I guess 2 years ago for the first time. Then I was at their first show back.
Nice, of course.
So yeah, they are an incredible band. But yeah, so it was like that the hardcore scene was really cool. Like all even like the New York bands, Sick of It All, Madball. H2O, I mean, we were going to shows every weekend.
From Pennsylvania to New York?
From Pennsylvania to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Had a really cool scene. Scranton, Pennsylvania had a really cool scene. Even New Jersey, coming into like Middlesex College, New Brunswick. And then, you'd come in to see hardcore shows in the city.
How old were you, I guess, this phrase, in high school? You're in this band, this crappy little band. But what did you do after high school? Like, and did your band career flourish any more within your high school days?
Yeah, I mean, I just basically got into other bands and then toured in a couple different bands coming out of high school, and nothing really took off. I was fortunate enough to do some tours around the United States and Canada.
What bands did you do tours with?
There were just a couple bands that just
zero. Come on,
it's not even worth mentioning. But no, it was fun. It was a learning experience. It's we were.
Is that like the Wolfpack days?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. I mean, we had fun touring and touring before the internet.
Right.
I mean, that was a wild time.
Well, probably better off that it was pre-internet, pre-cell phone.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. I mean, you want some of that being seen, I guess. Or
no, that's a different time. I mean, I can't imagine, because you could go to a city and just meet people, and then you wouldn't see them again until you came around a year later.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even, you'd write them a letter.
So how long did you tour? How old were you?
I probably toured, through my early 20s till maybe about 23.
Okay.
24. And then, I kind of.
What was life like for you then?
It was interesting because I would tour with these different bands, and then I was also doing body piercing at that time. And this is kind of like early 90s, late 90s, when body piercing was cool, at that time. And so I was doing that, and then I would go out on the road for a while and then come back and work at a tattoo studio. And it was pretty fun. That was a pretty cool thing to do in your early 20s.
So what did you do after that? What made you? What did you switch to?
So I basically had this kind of crossroads in my life where I just kind of I was like, okay, it's time to give up on the music dream. You know, like all my friends were they were graduating college, and they were starting to head down the path of this is what I'm going to do with my life.
Right.
And I was like, I don't see myself, I mean, I love playing music and I love doing this, but I just don't know the path of making this my do this for a living. So I decided that I was going to move to New York, and I got a job then at that point at SiriusXM satellite radio.
What year was this?
2006.
Okay, so that's pretty early on in the Sirius day.
Right, literally like before the merger. I mean, they had pretty much launched maybe a couple years before.
So wait, you pick up and leave. Did you have a job lined up, or just move to New York and try to figure it out?
Just moved to New York, and it's just like I'll figure it out.
Did you have a place to stay? Like, what?
Yeah. I got a place, and basically went to to get my foot in the door there. I had to go to audio school. I went to school, Institute of Audio Research in Manhattan.
IAR.
Yeah.
Isn't that where Manny went?
Yeah.
One of the guys who tattoos. There's a tattoo studio where we're shooting, and he was at IAR as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, they're not in business anymore. They tore down the building.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
It wasn't by St. Mark's or something like that?
It was on University Place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I basically just went to school for 8 months, I believe the program was, and got an internship at Sirius, and I had already done recording at home, so I had a pretty good knowledge of making stuff. So I started just producing stuff for Sirius.
But like, what show were you on in Sirius, or what channel?
So I basically started doing just audio production for Liquid Metal, The Coffee House, First Wave. These were all channels, and I had just sort of done like audio production for them and done imaging for them. And they were like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, we'll hire you.
Okay.
So, it was fairly easy to get my foot in the door, but that's kind of how the route you have to go, especially if you haven't come from big market radio. If you worked at K-Rock, you could get your foot in the door there easier. But if you didn't, it's harder to do.
How did you make it from like, doing production for these shows to being on-air personality?
Well, once the merger happened with Sirius and XM, there was a couple shows that had come over from XM to Sirius, and then I had moved over to the comedy side to work on these shows. And it was just one of those things that was like, hey, there's a position open here. Do you want? And I was working in music, and I loved the music channels, but something about comedy just seemed like, I don't really know much about comedy. Like this is uncharted territory for me. Sure, I'll take the job. So I did it, and I ended up liking it better than the music side of things.
But were you just still doing the audio production for them, or?
Yeah, doing audio production, and then I started just coming out with content for the shows.
What, you just came up with something one day and like, here, I have an idea, and they were like, oh, this isn't that bad. Let's
go
with it.
You sit down in a meeting, you just pitch ridiculous ideas, and sometimes
So when they decide, okay, well, you're pretty funny, we want you on air.
Well, that just kind of happens naturally, where you're like, if you're involved with something that's happening, like a bit that's happening, and then they're just like, well, bring Troy in. Troy, what happened with this? And
I got you.
Yeah, so then it kind of turns into all of a sudden now you're a character on a radio show.
So wait, what? During this whole time, you're not doing any music at this point, like no aspect of music. I know you also DJ.
Yeah,
right?
At that time, no, I was not doing music. I was in the mindset of I had to stop being a kid at that point. And music was something that's like, oh, that's what kids do, or I can't figure out how to make it. This is now my profession.
Right.
And then there was just a hole in my heart of, I love music and I want to be involved in music. And I started hanging out with some DJs, and I think we have a mutual friend, Neil Jackson.
Yeah.
He actually taught me how to DJ. And
really? I didn't realize he taught you?
He did. He was basically like, I was watching what he was doing, how he was DJing, and I was like, oh, you know what, I think I could do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, how about, he was booking a couple places at that time. He's like, well, how about I'll get you some gigs, learn how to do this. And once I think that you're okay, I'll get you some gigs and put you in these spots.
Right.
you know, and it's funny. I'm like, sure, let's do it. And you know, at the time you're like, yeah, let's do this, and then you get to the gig, and that's where it's you're like, I am in over my head. Everybody's walking out of the room.
What gig? What was the place you did your first DJ gig, and what happened?
So let's see here. The first couple gigs, I did a place down in the Lower East Side called Los Feliz. That was down on Ludlow. It was a cool little spot. They had a DJ there Friday and Saturday nights. And
is that where you met Katie?
Yeah, I met Katie
yeah.
Storm there. Yes, yeah. She was working there then. And then I DJ'd another place called the 675 Bar in Meatpacking.
Yes, that was below, right on 9th Avenue between 13th and 14th.
Yeah, it's a.
I remember seeing you spin there, but I'm sure it was like years after you'd.
Okay, yeah. So I DJ'd there, and those are fun. But yeah, I mean, it's scary. I mean, it's scary DJing for the first couple times, and you're in a room with people that want to be entertained, and you know, you're like, I know these songs work, and then you play those songs, and then you're like, now what? What do I do now? Like
6 minutes in.
So literally, and you're like, you know, and like DJing in New York. I mean, so you sometimes have to do marathon nights where you start at 11 o'clock and you'll have to DJ till 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. You know, it's just like so. It was learning how to like not blow your load early, kind of build up to a crescendo kind of thing.
But even like peaks and valleys, right? I've listened to Questlove talk about it. Like you can't have highs the whole time because then you don't feel like highs.
And you burn people out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you can literally make people exhausted.
Plus the peaks and the valleys are when people go to the bar.
Exactly.
Spend money for the bar. So it's important.
So that's all stuff you have to learn. And the only way to learn it, I mean, they can, you know, Neil could sit down with me and kind of tell me this, but the only way to do it is just to actually get out there and do it. So it took a little bit, but I fell in love with it, and I really enjoyed it. And at that time, it really kind of helped fill that void of music.
And was this around 2009, 8?
Yeah, this is about 8 or 9. Yeah.
So this was your first reintroduction into music again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and doing it in this way, you know, DJing.
Okay.
And I had seen, like I said, I would go to raves and I would see, you know, house or jungle DJs or drum and bass DJs, but you know, getting into more like almost open format here in the city, and you know, where you could do house stuff, but then, you know, drop into like 20 minutes of hip hop and then come back.
Yeah,
you know, it's like learning that.
Is that when it was called mashups? I think back then.
Yeah. And just, you know, taking the people on a ride. That was a hard thing to learn, but a good thing to learn.
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's almost like having stage presence or the band, being able to work the crowd, but you're doing it instead of having a mic. Well, some DJs have a mic, but you're doing it with music.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, you're DJing, but you're also working like 5 a.m., aren't you? Like, what time was your radio?
I'd have to be in at 5 a.m. Yeah, and I burned out really quick.
I remember we spoke about it, and I felt like there was a moment where I felt like you were kind of feeling like you were going crazy.
I was. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough.
How long was that run?
That was probably, man, I'd almost say 3 or 4 years where I was full on, you know, DJing at night. You know, because I had once the ball started rolling for me, I didn't want it to stop.
Right.
You know, like I had a gig and it's like, okay, like you're making okay money at this gig. Okay, you just got offered to do this other gig. Well, I don't want to turn that down because I don't want to give it to somebody else.
Right.
You know, I want to get my foot in the door in this place. So I would DJ till some, you know, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and then just go right into work at 5. And I just burned myself out.
Yeah.
You just.
And how'd you kind of save yourself from going off the deep end there, or further off the deep end? Because I remember you were kind of feeling.
Yeah, I think that's when I started Black Caviar, and I started just focusing more on Black Caviar gigs. And because it was a name and we were putting out music, we were able to ask a little bit more for a guarantee. So I was being a little bit more selective of what I was taking.
As far as DJs,
but
are you still doing that morning show?
Yeah.
So you're still waking up and there at 5 a.m.
Luckily, it starts a little later. The show that I work for now is Jim Norton and Sam Roberts, and it starts at 8 a.m. So I get up at 6, which is still rough. It still sucks, but it's not as bad.
I mean, 6 isn't that bad. As bad. I mean, 8 is ideal.
Exactly. That was, during the lockdown, it was great because I could just, wake up and open up Zoom, and just do the show there. That was a lot of fun. But, I wake up at 6, I get there about 7 and the show goes live at 8. It's not that bad. So.
Gotcha. Is there anything you're not okay with talking about on this show? Listen, I know Clarice is here, so it's some topics.
I know. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I know you know about it. Are you big on the outdoors? Still?
Yeah. I love outdoors. I love the beach. Love the woods. I love being outdoors.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know you had an interesting experience. We're not gonna go down that road exactly. I don't want to do that, but I kind of shaped you a little bit as far as the person you became, and I know you went through some dark moments. We spoke of that many times. And I almost feel uncomfortable talking about this right now.
No, so, that's fine.
You had an unfortunate incident happen with an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how did that kind of change your approach to life, and how did it change you, man?
So in August of 2013, I was hiking with my girlfriend at the time, and she fell and she passed away. It's tough. It's you kind of don't believe it's actually happening. Like,
and was that the first time you lost somebody really close to you?
Other than like my grandmother,
right, yeah,
or relative. I had a friend die in 8th grade from a 4-wheeler accident. So that I remember going to his funeral and kind of the processing, this is what happens in life. Accidents happen, and my friend he's laying in the coffin, and it's that was the first time that it really kind of hit me. And then my grandmother passed away, and so but then this was the first time where it was like, oh, this is like, not only does somebody pass away, but then you have to clean out their belongings and go through their stuff and finalize and call the bank and call her parents and say, hey, your daughter passed away. And so that was, it's
what helped you get through that? And how, that understandably it took a long time, right?
A long time. It took me about 5 years for it to sort of feel normal again.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, the thing that helped me the most out of anything absolutely was yoga.
Really?
Yes. I discovered yoga through our mutual friend.
Yeah, Kate. That's right. I got to get Kate on the show. I haven't gotten her on there.
Yeah. I have her to thank for that.
Yeah.
She it was one of those things where like I had always kind of been like, you work out, you go cardio or you lift, and it's like, oh, I can't calm down to do yoga. That doesn't, that's just not in my DNA. And when she explained to me how this works and what it does for you, and then when I started going through it, you go like, oh, this is working.
Yeah.
And so you just dive deeper into it. And I went to a place on St. Mark's. There was a place called Yoga to the People, and it was great. It was a great place. It was a community-based yoga. They did donations, so you could, if you had $10, you gave $10.
Yeah.
If you had $2, you gave $2.
Yeah.
If you had nothing, they went and they just wanted you to practice, for the better of the community, which was an excellent, thing.
Yeah.
So I would go there and I would just see people I would see people working through their problems. Like I would see somebody in child's pose just sobbing.
Really?
Yeah. And
I've done a couple yoga. I'm not a yoga person, but I've done a couple yoga classes, and I've never seen that before. But I know that yoga is essentially moving meditation, right?
Yeah.
But I never heard of people going through their emotions in a class, and more power to them to let it out. But yeah.
Yeah, you store tension in your hips and in your back. So when you release that tension, sometimes emotions come with it.
It's happened to me once. The first time I ever did acupuncture.
Oh, okay.
That night I was like a mess.
Yeah?
I was like 28 at the time, and it was actually an ex-girlfriend's mom who did it for me. And then that night I'm like a mess. I'm like, why am I feeling like this? But I understand now.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I tell people all the time, if people are dealing with depression, I'm just like, get into yoga, practice yoga.
I do think part of that was also the community, the yoga community.
100%.
Because I feel like a lot of, I was talking to people, matter of fact, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and a few weeks ago I felt kind of shitty. And what's really helped me, other than, I'm always active, so gym, outsiders, I'm outdoors a lot. But helped me the most was, on top of that, getting out making a point of making plans with friends to go out. Not necessarily the going out part, but it was being with friends. And the community made me feel so much better. And knowing that I'm a Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I have plans to hang out and like enjoy the city like I used to. Almost feel like responsibility free, but just really connect with my friends. And that aspect was, the community aspect for me is the biggest part, which is also the biggest part for me for outsiders. People are like, you're not a real outdoors person, like, in the sense of I've never been like a diehard hiker or a camper, or you don't see me doing like, spending a week in the woods. It's not me. But the community aspect is the same thing. What I built in nightlife was what I love the most and what's most helpful for me.
Yeah.
So,
and you do that very well. I mean, I've been to your events, I've been to your nightlife, and you definitely build a great community, and you bring in really good people gravitate to you, and you're able to introduce people to other people, and it's you've made an excellent community.
Thank you, brother. Well, you're part of it.
I'm happy to be part of it.
I appreciate every time you show up. It's funny, I don't get to see you too often. Whenever I do, I feel like I spoke to you yesterday.
Yeah,
likewise,
it's
great,
man.
But yeah, the community aspect for Yoga the People is a great part of it. Like, it's not just the yoga. Like, I think it's so important. Yes, get moving, get those tension points released. But like
breathing, it's a lot of it's breathing. It's controlling your. When you, that's the I guess the hidden thing that I figured out in yoga is breathing and learning how to control your. Like when you get anxious, you breathing through it, and you can take that and use that in other parts of your life. If you're stressed out at work and breathing, 100%. Calming down.
Well, that's why I think that Wim Hof strategy, the guy who goes like cold showers. I was talking to a friend of mine because he was like having like panic attacks. He's calling me up like, I don't know what to do. I can't feel like this anymore. So he tried anything he could, and he started taking cold showers in the morning. And cold showers in the morning in the summer, cool. Cold showers in the morning in the winter,
it's rough.
Suck.
Yeah.
But he told me, you know what? Why it helps? I have to take deeper. You ever get in cold water? You're like that deep breath, and it knocks out your anxiety, at least for a period of time. And that breathing is huge. It's a huge component of feeling better and relieving your stress.
Yeah. So that's the breathing and stretching. I mean, I can't, especially the older you get, it is so good to stretch every single day. I think
get the blood flowing in general. So I don't do a lot of stretching. I'll do like the foam roll. I'll do some stretching. A matter of fact, I can't do too much because that's what got my back in trouble. but I think getting the body moving.
Yeah, and even just any sort of activity. They say movement is medicine.
Yeah,
it's good for your everything. Moving and being active is very good for you.
So what do you do for yourself now?
Well, I love riding bike.
Yeah, we rode bikes a couple times.
Yep, you're fast, man.
No, dude, you say I'm fast. Like, I have a bike with gears. You have a fixie.
I do have a fixie. Yeah.
So, like, of course, and it's not like a speed, like a racing fixie. It's like a chilling fixie, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a crappy bike just because living in the city, you're like, this may get stolen. So it's like, if it gets stolen, I could just walk away.
But when I saw your photo last week with your bike with gears, it's like, finally, and you're like, I'm keeping it in Florida. I'm like, dude, get one for here so we can ride.
Yeah, I would love to here, but like I ride it to work, I ride it around, so I just have to lock it up to like a.
Well, I guess get a bike where you don't I don't lock mine out anywhere. Like, I'm taking my bike inside wherever I'm going. Like, this is a bike where if I'm on this bike, I'm not getting off the bike.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I ride to work. I really try not to ride the subway anymore. I don't enjoy it. So I try to bike everywhere if I can, as long as it's
weather permitting.
Yeah, weather permitting. So, I kind of need a little bit of a crappy bike. But I finally bit the bullet and bought myself a really nice bike. And so I have gears, and it's fun. It's really fun to ride. It's actually my size. I'm 6'2", so like I have an extra large bike. And the one that I have here is like, I feel like it's almost like you know, where they have like a mini, like a,
Yeah,
like a clown
BMX,
on a little,
yeah.
little bike or something. That's what I feel like, you know.
All right, so you started Black Caviar. What made you start? How did you start Black Caviar? Who did you start it with? Like, what came about? Because your history is rock, then DJing, but you're a music lover. I know you've always been into hip hop, rock, dance, all that stuff. What made you decide I want to start producing dance music? Or I know it's not really dance music, but electronic mixed genre music.
So back in Pennsylvania, in the scene in Allentown, next to Allentown's Reading, Pennsylvania, and so you know you'd kind of play this like circuit of, you know, Philly, Allentown, Reading, Scranton. You'd kind of be hitting all these different places, and in Reading, Pennsylvania, there was a really good scene there. There was a guy named Frank Phobia who threw really fun shows, and they would be in this the corner of a bowling alley. And it would just be wild. I mean, you know, like no security, people diving on top of each other, but like a community of people looking out for each other.
Yeah.
And, so I met a lot of amazing musicians that way. And one of the bands that come out of Reading was this band called Inner Party System. And they were kind of like right when like Killers and Franz Ferdinand were kind of mixing rock with dance.
Yeah.
You know, if you remember that in like, you know, 2005.
Well, that's a whole
2006.
mashup scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my friends, Jared Pacone, he was the drummer in Inner Party System, and then they broke up, and he had moved to New York and got a job at Republic Records, and so we're now talking like this is about 2014, somewhere in there, 13, 14. This is where Spotify started coming in, and it was like, oh, you could just make music and just upload it. Yeah. And people can stream it all over the world, and then you get paid for that.
Right.
Let's give it a shot. And so we started. We actually started doing metal. We started a metal band.
Really? Wait,
yeah.
Black Caviar was metal first?
At first, yes, we were called Serpents That Swim. And there's a couple songs out there, and they're not that good. You know, we were just trying to. We were figuring out because we lived in New York and we didn't have.
There's some songs on Spotify for that?
No, not on Spotify. I think you can find them on SoundCloud.
Who was the vocals?
Me. Yeah, it was me, and
I need to hear this.
it's just screaming. It's just nonsense.
I still need to hear it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's not that good, but so you know, we were like, oh, you know, we didn't have, you know, to be in a metal band, you need drums, you need amps, and you need space.
Not necessarily. What was that band that has like a DJ producing music and the guy who sings? Adam 12 was in it. Anyway.
Yeah, I know there have been bands that have done like
production, digital production.
What? I'm drawing a blank at the moment. Yeah. But yeah, I know there is a band I know that kind of just has like a guitar player and like a guy on a computer or whatever. But
right.
Genghis Tron, I think, is their name.
There's another one though I know that's not that name, but I'm sure there's a few bands out there. Like that. Yeah.
So we did it, and it wasn't that good, and so then we just started making funny beats and like doing funny doing funny vocals over it. And that's how Black Caviar kind of started. And then we did a couple cover songs too. We kind of redid a few.
There's no vocals from you in Black Caviar, are there?
No, all the vocals were Jared, my partner. That whenever there was extra vocals.
Yeah.
And then we knew so many vocalists and friends that we'd just be like, oh, come over and we had a friend that was a singer in Japan, and she was here in the States, and then so she came over. We just started literally just hanging out and just being goofy, and then we had her kind of say some stuff in Japanese, and then we chopped it up and it made it into a song, and then you know it's in like a Subaru commercial now. You know, like God. It's like that kind of like crazy stuff.
Who does your placement for you?
We have a company called Zinc that we work with now.
And how did you? I mean, you got all these connections through the radio stuff and music, years of experience.
Yeah, well, you know, Black Caviar, we started out as a goofy thing, and then we kind of started trying to turn it into a real DJ duo. And this is like, you know, 2018, 2019, we had a couple songs that were sort of doing well, and then the pandemic happened, and that kind of changed everything for Black Caviar. We realized that we really hate what this is becoming.
Why?
Because at the time with the management we were with, they were really kind of pushing us into this, like, to become this bottle service DJ duo, and it just seemed so. We felt like we weren't being authentic,
right?
And our manager at the time was really kind of trying to push us to make music to fit that lane. So the music we were kind of doing at that time was, it's not bad. I still like it, but it just doesn't, we were like, so the pandemic happened and it was kind of like, we're getting rid of everybody. We're stripping it back down to Jared and I and Black Caviar. We're going to self-manage ourselves and we're going to make the music that we want to make. And truthfully, I've never been happier with the project.
So what do you have coming up?
So we have releases scheduled throughout the year, the new year coming up. And then kind of to step out of what we were doing in the pandemic, we were, just to do something fresh. I had moved to a new neighborhood in New York City in Greenwich Village. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to my friend Nick, who's in the Disco Fries. And he goes, oh, yeah, I manage a guy that lives in Greenwich Village. I said, oh, yeah, a producer guy. And I said, oh, cool. Like, what does he do? I was like, oh, yeah, he's great. And it turns out this guy, Domenico, he literally lives right across the street from me in New York City. So I started hanging with him, and I was like, wow, this kid's really talented. 24-year-old kid and super talented, amazing guitar player, amazing musician. And I had worked with a vocalist in Ireland, this guy Ryan S., who is just an incredible vocalist, incredible songwriter. And he had given me a bunch of songs that are so good, vocals for them. They just need to be produced. So I talked to Domenico. I'm like, why don't we start a new project? Let's start something fresh, something, let's do something, funky 70s soul disco.
Nice.
Using more organic instrumentation. And we created a project called Street Bodega. And right now we've released 2 songs, and then we have a full album that every month we're going to roll out a new song from this project.
Okay.
So still doing Black Caviar. Black Caviar is a little bit more like dance, hip hop, and Street Bodega is more 70s funk soul. Kind of
so
thing.
what's your vision for the future moving forward? Like, do you know? I mean, you're still at SiriusXM.
Yeah.
You plan on staying there? Do you like? What was your wish for your future?
At this point, I'm just in a part in my life where it's taken me a long time, but I feel pretty content with the way things are going. And I just want to make music that I enjoy doing and hoping for the best with it. And kind of with what we've been doing is we've been getting a little bit, moving more into the sync world, where it's getting placements in movies, commercials. So we release the music, and then we have a team that shops it. And we're writing some music for some upcoming movies. That's pretty exciting.
Nice.
So so it's I feel pretty balanced, where I'm fortunate where I can do Jim and Sam in the morning on SiriusXM, and then I get to work on music in the afternoon. And
is that Monday through Friday?
Monday through Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
So Friday off. Yeah.
Not a bad deal.
Not bad at all.
Maybe worth waking up at or being there at 6.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's only 4 days a week.
All right. So what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? My girlfriend is a fantastic chef. So
I know, and I'm super. I don't know how you're not 300 pounds right now,
bro. That's why I got to stay active, man, because I can get fat real quick. So it's fun to, especially living in New York City, finding new restaurants.
Yeah.
Trying new food. What did we just had Sri Lankan food? Sri Lankan, is that? Have you ever had Sri Lankan food?
I don't think so.
It's excellent.
I would love to.
It was the first time. Yeah. There's a place on 2nd Avenue we went to the other night, and I was like, I've never had this cuisine, and this is fantastic, and I'm a fan of Sri Lankan.
That's a great thing to do for fun. I mean, especially when we have somebody who has the in on all the best places to go to, which means I need an invite to that, please.
Yes.
Let me know when you guys go explore. All right. What motivates you to keep on doing? Because you do a lot of stuff, right? Like you're not a lazy dude. What's your motivation?
I guess it would be. I feel best when I'm creating. Mm-hmm. I feel like life has purpose for me when I am creating. Music. I mean, I love being a part of it. Mm-hmm. I love coming up with ideas. I love being inspired by music. It's great, playing music my whole life, and hearing something and being like, when you hear something and you can still get chills from music.
Yeah.
When you feel like you've heard it all and you're like, wow, here's something.
I agree. And I don't understand the people who, I don't want to say I don't understand because everyone's different, but I don't understand the people who music is not a big part of their life. I remember talking to this girl on a date once, and this girl was like, yeah, I'm not really big on music. I just put it in the background. I'm like, how? What do you mean you put it in the background? And for me, like, yeah, I still get chills when I hear great songs.
Yeah.
Like I still love finding new music. It's like getting a new toy. Like that's how I feel.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't feel that way.
Yeah. I the only thing I can say is like I'm not crazy about movies, and the guys that I work with on the show, they're just movie nerds. So.
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of like they can't, like I didn't make it through. I haven't seen The Sopranos, and their mind is blown that I haven't seen that. Like that's probably the same as you thought, like, wow, you don't like music. That's what they feel with me, with, like in The Sopranos. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, music has just been such a part of my life since childhood, so I don't know how to live without it.
Since you were what, like 6 or 11, something like that?
I mean, even earlier. I mean, my dad was playing Beatles records as far back as I can remember.
I remember being obsessed with like Michael Jackson, having Michael Jackson T-shirts and so on. Like,
same. Yeah.
And it was a moment in my life when I was like a teenager. I'd be embarrassed to say that, but like everybody loved Michael Jackson back then.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of Outsiders? You've been to a good amount, and it's mostly, I think, bike rides, which is how we started. Mm-hmm. And I think you might have even been at one of our first few events. Mm-hmm. But what's your favorite part?
Like I said before, I love the community. You have such a great energy, and you attract good energy, and it feels like the people that come to your events are very cool. They are open to meeting new people. They're open to networking and making new friends, and building a community. And especially in a city like New York, where it's hard to.
It's a big lonely city.
It's a big lonely city.
Yeah.
So when you are kind of like the middle guy, and everybody's kind of like, yeah, Jeremy's awesome. So if you think Jeremy's awesome, and I think Jeremy's awesome,
but Bams agree. I'm waiting for a smart ass comment from Bams.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Of course he wasn't. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
Again, that's my favorite part of it. Being able to connect people. I mean, once in a while I get a little jealous, but I'll connect people and I see them hanging out outside of Outsiders. I'm like, hey, just don't forget about us. You know? But I love seeing it. That's the goal. It's hard to meet people, especially hard to meet people outside of an environment where you don't have to eat and drink. Everything in New York, you want to meet people, you're forced to eat and drink. And don't get me wrong, I like eating, I do, but like I don't want to be, let's say I just ate and I want to go hang out with friends. I want to be the guy at the bar or the restaurant that's not eating because you looked at funny by the server, right? So then I order something because you have to.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to do everything. Like as a kid, it's very nostalgic because as a kid, you're hanging out with friends. It's not because you're eating and drinking. It's because you're hanging out, having fun, doing fun things outside.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's when I just literally had that realization. Maybe that's why I like it so much. It reminds me of good times as a kid.
Yeah, and it has that fun element of like, we're just here to have fun, and it's hard, and it's harder to find the older you get.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's why what you're doing is absolutely incredible.
I hope you come more often, man.
I would love to, yeah.
When you're in town. What is a dream that you've yet to achieve? Do you have like something that you're like, I got to do that?
Oh, man. What is a dream I've yet to achieve? It's just, I don't know. I guess probably have a song, really start to chart, I guess would probably be, but it's one of those things where it's like, I have peace with it if it doesn't. I'm in such a good place and I enjoy what I do. If it happens, great. If it doesn't,
I just love the fact that you're saying you're at peace and you're happy, all that stuff. I love hearing that. One, because that's the life goal, right?
Sure.
But also, we spoke about, in general, life being frustrating and tough, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you find this peace of mind, man, I'm happy for it.
Dude, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's something believe me, I'll tell you, I struggle with it. And especially, with like social media, social media is a thing where like you just start comparing yourself to other people, and like, look how far this person is in their career, and look how far this person, and and this is up till recently where you're like, I have to disconnect from this. Like, this isn't real, and I can't be, because my journey in life is at a different place than this person's journey in life.
100%.
And that it just takes years of life kicking your ass to realize.
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And it's funny that you say that, because I just recently posted, like, I was presenting an award for the Nordic International Film Festival. People were like, oh, you're doing great things. I thought to myself, damn, I gotta post like a shitty moment. I want to post like a shitty moment in my life to show people, like, hey, this is the real life. I'm posting the highlights of my life on my social, but I want to show you, like, one of the posts I got the most engagement with was a post my boy took of me. I was like slaving away on my computer, like zoned out. And he takes a photo, and I gotta post this photo, because people always think my life is like just hanging out and being at this event or being in this hike or whatever. They don't see like the backside of it. Yeah. And I want to post another post that doesn't have to be sad or bad, but just like a reality check, because I feel like people need to see that.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out what that is.
Yeah, same. I mean, I don't post much just because, like, I don't know. I feel a little, sometimes I guess, self-conscious, like I'll post something and I'll be like, why would anybody care about seeing me here doing this?
Right.
But you as a business, and when you're you have to kind of put stuff out there. Yeah. And that's, that's something I still struggle with, is I don't enjoy. I wish I had the ability, when you're in your 20s, where you just don't care, you just do things.
Yeah.
As you get older, you kind of overthink things, and that's definitely, sometimes a problem. I wish I could get over a little bit better, but it is what it is.
Well, I think as long as you realize that anyone with a head on their shoulders thinks the same way, you feel better about it. Yeah. I do. All right. What is your most embarrassing moment? Something really embarrassing. We've had a few great ones recently. I'm just going to list one, because I've been listening like 2 or 3 lately, and it takes too much time. But one is my friend. He's laughing because he knows him. My friend.
Wait. Which one are you going to tell him?
Javier, I guess. Or Ken Tanaka. Which one? Ari's was cool, but I still like Javier's better.
Javier is probably better.
All right, so my buddy Javier lived in Atlanta. He's going to school on a city bus. Uh-huh. He's wearing snap-off pants.
Yeah.
Gets on the bus, pant gets stuck in the door, walks up the stairs, rips off his pants. He's standing in his tighty whities on a city bus for everyone to see. Everyone down the aisle, or whatever you want to call it, is seeing him in his tighty whities on the bus before he goes to school. That's pretty embarrassing. The other one I'd like to mention is Ken Tanaka. I got to mention Ken Tanaka. Ken Tanaka ran the marathon, the New York City Marathon, with food poisoning. It took him 8 hours and 27 shits later. He finished home.
Oh, man.
I was like, why did you run it, dude?
Oh, he barreled through it. I love it. I love it.
I think Ken's might be more embarrassed.
Ken, you know what Ken's is, but like, it's self-inflicted. You know what I'm saying? Like, you chose to run the marathon with food poisoning, but Ken's like a dude who's like, super focused. Like, he promised you do it, he's gonna do it. Even if he has to take 27 shits, he's gonna do it.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
So it's very incredible.
Wow. Let's see. I mean, there's so many. I don't even know.
It's whatever comes to mind, man.
I guess it would be so when the pandemic happened, my girlfriend and I moved down to Florida, and we got a place down there, and so I got into CrossFit, and I'd never really done CrossFit. I'd never did that, but I was.
She's laughing already. She knows what it is.
Is this a good one? Okay. So, and the problem with being down in Florida is there's a lot of amazing fried chicken. It's just. There's the supermarket down there, Publix. They have the best fried chicken.
You've told this to me like 6 times.
I'm the biggest advocate of Publix fried chicken. It's literally the best fried chicken I've ever had in my life. But anyway,
sponsor them.
So I was addicted to fried chicken, and I started CrossFit at the same time.
Oh.
So I started doing squats, and I had never done squats. And I started, the trainer down in Florida was like, "Oh, you can push. You're a big guy. You can push yourself. You can push yourself." And I was pushing myself, and I got a really bad hemorrhoid.
Oof.
Really bad. And I was in just excruciating pain for just days upon days, and I didn't know how to deal with it.
just told us you got a hemorrhoid. I love you for that.
And he kept saying pushing it. I thought it was going to totally.
I thought you
Where
were
do you think we were going? I was gonna shit myself.
Yeah, basically.
No, it gets better. So yeah, so I'm in excruciating pain. I can't do anything. I can't sit. I can't walk. I'm in hell. So I said to my girlfriend, I said, we gotta go. I gotta go to the ER. I gotta get this taken care of immediately. And I go to the ER down in Florida, and these two extremely attractive nurses were there to help me, and I was beyond embarrassed that you have to pull down your pants in front of these attractive girls that are, and my girlfriend, of course, and she is laughing at me because she knows what hell I'm in, how embarrassed.
Yeah.
I'm in pain, and this is happening to me. This is embarrassing, and and then I had to explain what's happening, and they had to get in there and look at it, and
How do they fix the hemorrhoid?
well, you get some cream, you get some ointment, and they
And you have your girlfriend apply it on?
No, I didn't. I did not do that. We skipped that part. But yeah, that was probably the most. I have so many. I could be here telling you embarrassing moments.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but yeah. So
I mean, the fact that you had like two good-looking nurses looking at your hemorrhoid.
yeah,
That's fantastic.
extremely embarrassing.
Yes, that is great. You did a good job finding a nice embarrassing story.
Good.
All right. Is there anything I haven't asked you want to share? Anything I forgot about or whatever?
I don't know. I mean,
Anything I don't know about you?
I don't know. I think we may have covered it. I'm not sure.
I mean, I think we have. We spoke
Yeah.
about your hemorrhoids. So
Where do you go from there?
I think we just go to the 5 rapid fire questions because that's about a wrap. All right, so 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
All right, and I have a 6 because you're a music head, so it's me 6. Favorite city other than New York City?
San Francisco.
Okay.
L.A. Okay, fine, L.A.
Wait, why are you answering for him? Which one?
I love Amsterdam. Actually, you know what? That's a good point. Love Amsterdam.
Amsterdam?
We're going to put that on the list.
All right, Amsterdam it is. If you could do any other profession in the world, what would you do?
I wish I could be a stand-up comedian. I think that's.
I think you can be.
I can't be. No. I did stand-up comedy once. I bombed.
Just tell like hemorrhoid stories. You'll do great.
Yeah. It's just There's a real art to it, especially somebody that can just go in and control a crowd. I mean, even like working in comedy, working on the show. You know the best comedians in the world.
Yeah.
And to just walk out on a stage with a microphone and just riff with people is such incredible art.
Yeah, but they bomb when they go out there. Like they go test material and they'll bomb. For
Of course, yeah. Of course.
But
they
also,
bomb.
I feel like every comedian, as funny as they are miserable individuals.
They are. Yeah, they are.
So I'm glad you're not a comedian.
I guess.
What's your vice?
I love eating.
Food. I mean, your girlfriend facilitates your vice, I guess.
I know, because if it were up to me, I would literally just be eating all the time.
Really?
Because I have to at some point you have to pump the brakes.
I'm glad you got that bike.
Yeah.
What's your greatest fear?
Probably be laying in my bed as an old man and having a attractive nurse have to put on the hemorrhoid cream.
That's not your biggest fear, man. What's your biggest fear?
I don't know. Probably knowing that you are dying.
So death. Yeah.
Not necessarily death. Not being here. It's just the act of knowing, like, oh, this is it. This is the end, and I'm witnessing the end.
Like when it comes.
When it comes, and knowing that you're going through this at this point. Yeah, that's probably.
Hopefully, it comes at a place where like you're like, all right, take me because I'm done.
Yeah, I'd rather like a lights out kind of
Yeah.
death, but yeah, probably knowing that like having to sit in a hospital bed while
yeah.
you're and knowing like okay, this is and people have to come see you and say goodbye to you. I think that would be a pretty.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a way that would be great.
No.
All right, this is the additional question before my last question is, if out of any band in history you could be part of, any music group or whatever, who would you choose?
Man. Narrow it down to one?
Yeah, one that stands out. I mean, obviously, I know there's gonna be many that you'd be part of.
Yeah.
Which one would you be like? That's who I'd be part of.
I'm gonna say Mr. Bungle.
Mr. Bungle.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to know Mr. Bungle?
Yeah, I can't believe you don't know Mr. Bungle.
Wait, you don't know Mr. Bungle?
Stop it. You don't know Mr. Bungle either.
Yeah, dude, the lead singer is from from
Faith No More.
Faith No More.
Really?
Mike
Yeah.
Patton. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mark used to listen to them all the time.
Maybe I know my song. I would assume I'd know
I
the
guarantee
name.
you,
Mr. Bungle.
what Nightmare Air Conditioner or something.
Air Conditioned Nightmare.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
You probably know that song.
All
Yeah,
right.
they were just extremely skilled musicians, and the singer Mike Patton was in Faith No More.
Yeah.
And when Faith No More blew up, he got his other band signed, and they are just incredible musicians, and they do it with such ease, and they flip through genres just so without any effort.
Really?
And they're just wild. They're just a wild band.
I mean, it
so.
speaks to your musical career.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to go listen to them and see if I know their songs. All right. Last question. What's your favorite food and what'd you bring?
Oh, well, I guess it's hard to to pick one thing because like I don't know. Do I show up with tacos? Do I show up with?
You can, whatever you want, but I see you brought a Kit Kat.
As far as a candy bar goes, this to me is the superior candy bar.
Really?
I think so. I think it is the perfect snack.
So why is it Kit Kat? I know for me, if I had to pick like a well-known brand as far as candy bar, I would have chosen Snickers. Personally,
Snickers is a good one. I feel like Snickers is. I feel like this is simple. It's delicious. It has crunch. And yeah, I don't know why. I just feel like this is the superior candy bar.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's more basic than most.
It is.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't. Sometimes less is more.
Very true.
Yeah.
I don't know how to follow up on that, but that's a good choice. I don't know. I think that's
So we're
everything.
not going to eat it. I thought we were going to eat it.
Oh, you can eat it.
I thought you were going to have it with me.
I am on this annoying doctor ordered.
You can't have
I
chocolate.
can't. No sugar.
How about you, my man? You want a piece of Kit Kat? All right.
He always turns down all the food anyway.
Why do you turn down the food?
Can't. Oh yeah. How was that? You want to describe it to us?
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
We didn't hear the crunch. It's not like the commercials.
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah.
False advertising.
Kit Kat.
Awesome. Well, I think that's everything.
Cool, man.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I think what makes your story interesting, and I've told people this, they're asking me who my favorite stories are, is people who had different chapters in their lives. You've had a few.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're not done yet.
I
feel like
see.
I know you're going to continue creating and finding new ways to make money and express yourself. So maybe we'll see you as a stand comic sometime soon.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not. But yeah, thanks for being on
Thanks
the
for
show.
having me by, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Awesome. Well, see you guys.